I'm Kathy Johnson. I live at 22280 Bering Avenue, Castle Rock. In thinking about what to say tonight, I decided to reflect upon the article that Kara Hildreth did in the paper recently. And Tract, the CEO of Tract, is now saying that they've established a website to educate the public. In that same article, they called our lawsuit frivolous and meritless. I wish that the public would remember that there have been one attempt for Farmington and 2 attempts for Castle Rock to have our case dismissed, and we've prevailed every time on every count. This early winter, we added 2 environmental counts based on the Minnesota Environmental Rights Act. At first, there was a conflict in the wording, and the judge guided our attorneys how to change that because, she said, our case had merit, and she would not disclude that just based on a technicality. We changed the wording, and the environmental counts are part of the coalition's lawsuit. So I ask you, are you going to believe an attorney who just proclaims that we're meritless, or are you going to listen to a judge who has 4 times supported the fact that no, in fact, we do have merit, and we have prevailed every time in court to date. This is an example of what Tract is calling an education, and I put that in quotations because they're the only ones who have access to that. It's not an open website that anybody can post on. They're saying that we use social media as the basis, when in fact, if you look at our website, our sources are cited. The attorney at the last meeting also proclaimed the Vermilion River will not be harmed. I question his authority to know that, but rather than take an attorney's word on that, what I suggest to the public is that you be aware that the coalition is sponsoring another public hearing or public informational meeting, and you're all invited, May 14th, 7 o'clock at the Heritage Library in Lakeville. Our speaker is Dr. Carrie Jennings. She is a geologist and hydrologist and environmental policy leader who's best known for her work on groundwater sustainability, surface water protection, and land use impacts. I think she might be a better source of information about whether the Vermilion River is safe or not than a lawyer who just decides, I'll proclaim that this is the truth. I think that the Farmington residents that are listening to this tonight need their eyes wide open. The court of public opinion is definitely changing in the direction of people thinking like the coalition because of the overwhelming evidence that is showing the environmental and other residential harms of this. So I'm taking issue with the word education that the attorneys use. I'd say it's more like brainwashing. Thank you.
Nancy Arstead, Beaumont Avenue. Tone and truth matter. Your developers sent you and the Planning Commission a 4-page letter. This is included in the agenda packet, April 20th. I urge everyone watching to go and read it. It's online, April 20th. Here are some highlights. The letter says Tract shared its plans in public meetings, and the council voted in a way that reflected the will of the majority of Farmington residents. The word majority, where is the evidence for that? Show me the survey, the popular vote. Prove it. Is that true? The letter repeatedly calls the people opposing this project a handful of vocal citizens, a loud minority. Social media misinformation is in there. Actors who purport to lead. Who exactly are they talking about? Are they talking about the residents who have stood up at this podium for 2 years, pouring their hearts out, looking at you, begging you not to put this hyperscale data center next to their homes? All those faces? The letter calls the lawsuit meritless. They actually use meritless twice. Walk into Farmington City Hall, out here, and then stop. Imagine you are standing at the edge of your own property. Look down the hallway and imagine a massive electrical substation halfway down this hallway. That is what you have approved for the residents of Farmington. An electrical substation 50 feet from properties, from people's homes, halfway down this hall. Is that meritless? It said legal action based entirely on social media misinformation. Do you think people are suing entirely because of Facebook posts? Really? The letter said Tract empathizes with Castle Rock taxpayers who have to pay for this legal fight. So they have empathy for taxpayers paying for a lawsuit to try to save their homes. Where is their empathy for the devastating consequences of putting this next to their homes? The letter says the coalition wants to turn Tract's willingness to compromise into a theater for public spectacle. What compromise? What are they talking about? Where is the compromise from this developer? We know of no compromise. The coalition's preconditions, what preconditions could those be? I have no idea. That is the tone of your good neighbor. Do you think they are nice neighbors? They're going to be nice? Do you know what an ad hominem attack is? It's when you ignore the idea and attack the speaker who is speaking the idea. Thank you to the one council member who defended us against these words and voted no. The rest of you said nothing. Now the new development contract you approved. It shows 2.93 million gallons of water per day, but now also includes an annual cap of 50 million gallons per year. How can this be? How do these numbers make any sense together? Why would they need 2.93 million gallons per day? They would use up their annual limit in 17 days. Let's set aside the fact that these contracts can be amended and amended. For a 708 megawatt data center to use only 50 million gallons per year, that would suggest a virtually waterless cooling system, something very different from what you approved. Go back to your AUAR. It says this is a water-cooled system. Look at your water discharge. You approved 176 million to 427 million gallons of water discharge in 6 months. 6 months after evaporation. How does this work if they are now pulling a mere 50 million gallons of water in 12 months? This does not match your AUAR at all. What's going on? Is this all closed loop now? Or dry cooling? We don't know. You did not ask. If it is not water cooled with the numbers that reflect on the AUAR, then you need to revisit your approval. This is not what you agreed to. This could mean way more electricity, cooling equipment, backup generators, noise, glycol concerns, changes the entire setup. Did you ask why the water numbers aren't consistent? No, you did not. You passed their plats because, in your words, the last plat did not spell out a lot of things and was not clear, and this one is better than the worst one. That's what you said. You are forever
Terry Pearson, 2475 225th Street, Castle Rock. I have questions tonight. Some of you may need to ponder. Maybe you have answers to. At the last City Council meeting, the construction company Tract stated they will be using 2 existing wells on the golf course during the construction phase. Now that the plat is divided, how long is the planned construction lasting for both phases? Does anyone monitor the usage of the wells? Because I have a well that has no ability to measure my water usage. This is supposed to be a hyper data center, and I imagine even the construction phase needs huge amounts of water. Wouldn't you? The buildings in the hyper data center will house thousands of computer servers. We still don't know what companies they serve. Do you? Will they be supporting government surveillance? Will AI be supporting military actions in some foreign nation? Will they be used for crypto? Will they be supporting pornography? What have you invited into our neighborhood and city? There are so many unknowns. Who takes real responsibility for the technological monstrosity? Mitigation for something like this could be a joke. And is this someone's fantasy of a wonderful future Farmington, or will it be a nightmare that we won't be able to wake from? We'd like answers, not promises.
Hi, my name is Chris Aiken. I live at 22390 Beaumont Avenue, Farmington, Minnesota. Minnesota. For more than 40 years, I have lived, worked, volunteered, and raised a family in the Farmington area. My roots span both Castle Rock Township and the city of Farmington. I owned a downtown business for 20 years and served on numerous boards and community organizations. I co-chaired events and supported the schools. My life has been intertwined with this community's growth, challenges, and celebrations. These experiences shaped my understanding of what strong community leadership looks like: transparency, inclusion, and respect for residents. Even when disagreements arose, the conversations involved the people who lived here. That is the Farmington I knew and loved. When my husband asked me to get involved in the data center discussions that surfaced publicly in the spring of 2024, I declined. I told him I trusted our city leadership and staff to thoroughly vet a development of this magnitude, especially one involving annexation, rezoning, and a dramatic change to a long-established residential area. I believe the city would either deny the proposal or relocate it to a more appropriate site. As I began to learn more, it became clear that something had shifted at City Hall. Key staff positions were new. The Community and Economic Development Department had changed, and the Economic Development Authority itself had changed. Farmington's EDA was once comprised of community members. Today, it is composed of city council members. My research shows that most cities maintain a mix of residents and elected officials on their EDAs to ensure balanced representation. Farmington moved in the opposite direction. I understand the long-standing challenges that all of the city council and staff have faced over the years with tax revenue and the desire for amenities that neighboring communities enjoy. But I must ask, did the promise of increased revenue make this data center approval easier to accept? Was this seen as the solution to years of financial pressure? Because if so, the cost is far greater than the benefit. The approval of a hyperscale data center in Southeast Farmington will shape your legacy as community leaders. It will also shape the lives of the residents who were not meaningfully included in the process. A project of this scale, one that alters the environment, the character, the safety, and future of an entire residential area, should have been approached with the highest level of transparency and public engagement. Instead, residents were left out until the process was already well underway. That is not how responsible governance works. So please, I'm asking you to commit to rebuilding trust with the people who call this community home. Decisions of this magnitude should never again be made without the full participation of the residents that they affect. Thank you.